So I'm in Dallas, Texas for one of my best friend's weddings. Super pumped, but I wanted to bring you guys along because I've got this pretty cool room and I've got an idea for a couple tips I could share with you guys on shooting interior real estate videography, or if you're shooting for like interior designers and stuff, this will be really helpful too. So let's get into it. All right, so the first thing I did was get this room as bright as possible and get as much natural light coming in as possible. So you can leave on lights like this for accent details and stuff like that, but a lot of times they ruin your color. I do like this one because it's more of a natural color and it's just a little tiny pop of light. And stuff like this I'm not really going to worry about because we're just going to be shooting tight details. But lamps like this, it's always worth trying out, may be better if you're shooting at night. So that looks a lot better to me. And if you're in a dark room like this, you're kind of just stuck with dealing with that color cast. You just got to adjust your white balance to where it's going to match it. So usually like 3200 Kelvin works for that. We got the R7. And we've got the Sigma 18-35 lens, which is actually really good. Super, super versatile and gets really, really great results. So, I got that. And then for my adapter, I've got the variable ND behind the lens from Canon. Super, super handy, especially if you're shooting at 1.8, which I definitely will be with this lens. So if you go all the way, it turns blue, but you can see. There we go. So I'm going to use this on autofocus mode, small spot, and I'm going to use normal. I'm going to use the normal 4K. Actually, to make this cool, I'm going to show you guys a fun feature that I like to use. I'm going to go ahead and use this on 4K crop mode because you get an even tighter perspective, which is great with this lens. The 4K fine footage is better quality because it's downsampled from 7K, but for what we're doing, this is going to look really good. We're going to go 60 frames a second. We're going to go IPB. We're going to shoot in log and got it at 1.8 aperture, 125th of a second for shutter speed, and the ISO is 800 because that is the native ISO for this camera. Alright, so now that we got the camera set up, we got the settings locked in, all we're going to have to do to change the exposure is change the variable ND to be either stronger or less strong, depending on how bright the specific area is. So closer to the window, we'll probably need a little bit more variable ND. If we're in this dark kitchen area, we might even have to take that filter out so that we can match that exposure from shot to shot and get the best looking image. Hello. Oh. All right, guys, now a quick interruption to talk about today's video sponsor, which is Cuts. So as you probably know, I'm extremely single, and coming up on Valentine's Day, I have no date or anything. So when Cuts reached out to sponsor this video, they have some really cool Valentine's Day packages pre-made. So I thought this would be a great opportunity to gift that to some people who do have a date. My parents. Oh good, nobody's outside. What the heck is going on down here?
I'm building my body.
Right on cue.
Quit it.
You're here. I'm missing you.
Got something.
What is it? From Cuts? Oh my. Oh, it's two things. Is it one for me and one for Dad?
Yeah.
Matching?
It's their Valentine's Day kit. Matching Sherpas.
Matching Sherpas.
Thank you, Taylor.
I know. Thank you.
Bailey wants one.
Look, I can't wait to try it on. It's so warm and cozy.
It's a video. So
Oh, it's a
y'all
video.
this could be you on Valentine's Day,
That's right.
cuddling up with
Oh,
matching
it is.
outfits.
That'd be a perfect plug for these.
Use the link down below to get 15% off anything you purchase from Cuts.
Thanks, Cuts, for sponsoring this video.
Yay!
Yay!
Happy breath.
All right, so here's a few go-to shots for interiors. It always works to get a cool shot of the pillows. So maybe something kind of like this to get that backlighting. We're gonna pan around like this, do a little orbiting motion, and that's pretty much it. Show those design elements. We can do the same thing with this texture on this back splash of the bed, whatever you call this, headboard. It's huge. So we can do that same kind of thing to show this texture because that's like a really cool design element. And we definitely want to show these light sconces, lamps, fixtures. We can probably get a cool shot of this curtain, maybe just going like this. Definitely want one of this desk area showing that lamp. That's a really cool, maybe custom design element. Always look for areas where there's cool little light pockets like this. See how it's like brighter on the, naturally brighter on the wall? We can probably make something cool out of that. This mural thing is a pretty sweet custom detail, I'm sure, for this hotel. It's showing the Dallas skyline and has a bunch of street signs. That's pretty neat. So obviously they commissioned some custom artists to make that. So I would definitely feature that. We got a cool little work area. We got more pillows we could get shots of. See, like that lamp looks really cool from over here. Another thing is just get pretty normal shots. So for smaller spaces, you can kind of section it off into different areas. So I could get like way back here and shoot that desk zoomed in, compressed, and maybe from down here and get some of that cityscape in the background. That would look really cool. And same thing for this little table area. So hopefully you're following all this, but another great thing is to use pretty much any mirror that you can possibly find. That gives you a lot more options for your compositions you can do, because you can get further away basically through the reflection. So another great thing to do is custom counters, sinks, cabinet details like these handles. Looks nice. Even just the window view through like the desk kind of as a silhouette, that works. Or even over here, like from way back here, zoomed in, get the shot of the pillows with the cityscape in the background, maybe show the pillows, maybe use this door as foreground if we can get over there. Once again, a mirror shot could potentially look cool for that lamp. I don't know, this bathroom, maybe we'll get just like a really simple slider shot of these pillows, of these of these towels. And this is kind of the only cool detail of this is the these custom dispenser things. Maybe this towel too. Maybe this artwork. This is kind of a cool perspective. Look, you can get this sink and some of the window view from way over here. So you can definitely do all of this stuff with a gimbal, but I don't have one with me for this video, and there's gonna be some day where you end up needing to get a really smooth, nice handheld shot. So being able to get good at this and working with limited gear is a good skill to work on, and it's gonna come in handy someday. All right, so I like to go ahead and get lots of extra shots. If I see something while I'm standing in a spot with my eyes, I go ahead and get it. I like to have options in the edit. You don't want to be stuck with not enough shots for whatever your client ends up wanting long term. So it's always good to overshoot with these things, have variety of even the same detail. So like the pillow, you could get it from 2 different lighting scenarios, and you might not realize it now, but one might work a lot better in the edit. And if you overshoot it while you're on site, you don't have to go back. People don't have to restage it. Reshooting stuff is just the worst. So try to avoid it at all costs. So far, I am just getting details of the pillows and of this sconce light, and I am just doing some parallax movements, moving side to side as slow as I can while keeping the subject in the center of the frame. And the previews you're seeing are in 60 frames a second, but they are unedited, so once we edit them later, they're going to play back a lot more smoothly and slower. All right, next tip is isolation is your friend. So if you're working with a tiny room, you don't want it to just look like you're in the exact same space for every shot. So by zooming in and isolating details or subjects or products in this instance, you take the viewer into your perspective and out of being in just one room. And my goal while doing that is to basically do product photography, but in video form obviously. And I want to get the best looking shot of each individual product and do that in a perspective that makes it look really good. So a lot of times that's really just straight on, that looks really good, or from a little bit lower, or from a 45-degree angle. That's kind of the go-tos for how to make most products look their best. You really want to avoid too much distortion or showing the less pretty parts of the product. Like you don't really want to show the top of the lamp where you can see some of the wires or screws or bolts or whatever. So that's all. Might as well film 360. And one more thing I'm doing for every shot is if I'm doing a parallax style shot, like orbiting side to side, or I'm doing just a straight side to side shot, or whatever, even just push-in shots, handheld, or with a gimbal. I like to do them both directions just so I have a lot more room in the edit, as is ending up being the common thing of this video. And one more tip is do these movements as slow as you possibly can so that you can extend them as long as you possibly can in the edit, because that just gives you so many more options and it's going to save you. If anything is weird or wobbly, or if your client needs a longer edit for something later, you just always want to make sure you're getting as much stuff to work with as possible. All right, so now I am taking off the variable ND filter and shooting through that mirror to try to get a really cool perspective of that desk work area, like we talked about earlier. And I think that shot worked out to be really cinematic looking. So one difference with detail shots compared to wide angle shots, showing a whole room, from shot to shot, you can totally just completely change how the lights are turned on. So always be thinking about this stuff on a shot by shot basis. Obviously you want them to be coherent as a set, but for like a white pillow, you don't want half of it to be looking orange. So just something to be thoughtful about. So now I'm setting up to shoot some detail shots of those pillows and the couch details. So I'm just doing a slow pan up while shifting side to side to kind of reveal a little bit more of the different textures. And now I'm trying it a little bit lower, trying to get some details of that little couch table. I'm not sure what you call it, but it's a little desk thing. So I'm just getting a shot showing that with some of the couch details in the background. And I'm touching the screen to rack focus from the table to the pillow. So that can create a little bit more dynamic and interesting shot. And from time to time, I'll use that technique. And now I am going to shoot some details of this bed. So we're going for the textures in this because that's what the designer chooses. And changing my settings a little bit to adjust for the exposure and stopping down the f-stop a little bit so that we get a little more detail in these shots. So we're starting out with a shot showing the pillows and the backboard. Just a real simple, slow movement, nothing fancy. Just enough movement to look intentional and differentiate it from a picture. All right. And now we're moving over to shoot some details of those lights over the dining area. So I had to take off the variable ND again to adjust that exposure. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit on this one so that we can get both of those lights a little bit closer together in the frame. And we're just doing a really, really slow parallax shot, moving side to side on these. One more thing that I did is with these lamp detail shots, I got one of just the lights off with the nice metal detail custom up here, and then I turned the lights on and got a alternate shot too. So especially for lighting, if that's part of the design, having both options is it's just a smart thing. You're gonna have that option if your client wants to change it later, or you're gonna have the option to make a alternate video, and so on and so forth. So it's actually really dark in this area, so I'm gonna switch to 30 frames a second so that I can get a lot cleaner image. So it's another little tip that I do. We definitely don't need the variable ND for this darker area. And because I switched to 30 frames per second, we're gonna have to do the movements even slower, because once we slow it down in post to 24 frames a second, it's gonna be half as long as the 60 frames a second shots. So keep that in mind. Don't mess it up if you're on a shoot right now. All right, so this is a little bit more of a creative shot, shooting through the glass at the reflection of the rest of the room. Not sure if we'll end up using that, but it's always fun to try. And now just a pan up and parallax combo shot of the cabinet details. And I almost ate it. Another little tip that you'll see in the edit, I really, really like to combine camera movements. So if I'm doing a parallax shot, instead of just doing that, I like to also pan up or pan down to kind of follow the detail and make it a more dynamic and interesting shot. So once you're comfortable with the basics, I highly recommend you build on those. So one really good strategy for making a whole video out of just one small room with a bunch of details and some wide, medium shots is to always shoot everything wide, medium, and tight. And that way you can kind of build sequences in your edit where maybe you start on wide, you cut into tight, you go back to medium, or you call back that later, whatever moves the story along. So for interior design stuff, wide, medium, and tight. That's the way to go. Don't forget it. Also, using surfaces like this that are flat to do a slider shot on is really, really great, especially if you have a nice soft shirt that makes you more slidey. So I'm getting we'll call this a medium shot of the desk to showcase the view and what it might be like to sit there and work, which is what I'll probably be doing later. So here we go, recording, panning up a little bit on accident, but it looked cool. So that pretty much looks exactly like a slider shot, honestly. And now we can go 4K mode, same settings. Gotta change the exposure a little bit because we're not as tight, it's a little different. And I'm gonna do the same thing without my 360 camera in it. Let's go medium, same thing. Ooh. Show a cool detail of that lamp. That's nice. So if you find little spots like this that you can film, I would suggest get as many shots as you can from there because they look really, 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 really clean. So I'm gonna get one of the bed from over here. So I'm gonna focus on the backboard of that bed and push in. And now pan up a little bit. All right, now I got a cool angle of these pillows from here. A lot better than the other side where I shot from earlier. So I'm gonna use this as foreground a little bit, and then I'm gonna go from pillow to the next pillow, focus-wise, and then couch. Ooh. And keep going. I'm gonna do it backwards. That's pretty good. So I didn't film behind the scenes of this bathroom because it was kind of dark and I was in a bit of a hurry. So here's the shots. All right, now we're getting some alternate angles of those pillows on the bed. just a medium shot showing a little bit more movement and a little bit more context. Now we're getting some shots of this desk area and the TV details. Just a real slow movement. And once again, these are all going to look a lot better once they're slowed down from 60 frames a second to 24 frames a second at 40% speed. So they're going to be a lot smoother and slower. And last but not least, we're getting this curtain detail. And there wasn't really enough dynamic range to incorporate the cityscape in the background, so I'm leaving it out probably. And then I quickly went through and got some medium wide shots to incorporate into the edit too, but you guys have already seen how to do that on my other videos. So I'm going to leave that out of this behind the scenes. It's not that important. So moral of the story is always be looking for cool, unique perspectives and capitalize on those the second you see them. Don't forget to do them. It's not going to hurt you if you have too much footage after a shoot and you have to go and delete some off your hard drive later. It's not a big deal. It's a lot bigger of a deal to not have enough footage. All right, that is it. I'm done getting all my shots, so here is the edit. I hope this is helpful for you and maybe a little bit like inspirational. If you don't have the budget for a lot of gear, you really can do a lot with a little. I know seeing behind the scenes stuff like this was really helpful for me when I was learning, so hope it's helpful for you too. Enjoy the edit. Alright guys, I think that edit came out pretty sick, and hope this video was helpful for you guys. I know it's just a quick one with some pretty simple basic tips, but if it was helpful, let me know in the comments. If you got any questions, let me know in the comments. I'll help you out, or someone else will chime in and help you. We are working on building a great, positive, helpful community over here, and I hope that you can be a part of it. So if you're new, thanks so much for joining. And if you're old, you've been around for a while, thank you so much for your continued support. This stuff wouldn't be possible without you guys. And as always, I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Bye.